Hi everyone, welcome to this moment and the Diamond Mothering with Lisa and Caroline. We're here to create a beautiful space for mothers.
Hi everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we are talking to Sze Wing Vetault, who I've known for quite some time. And Sze Wing actually approached me and was asking me about, wanted to have a discussion around meaningful purpose. And this is something that's very meaningful to her in her job as a coach and as an author and as a busy mum. One of those women that do 100 things and get them all done pretty well, I think, from what I've observed. But I'd love to talk to her about it. So Wing, meaningful purpose, like you've come to this place in your life where that is meaningful to you. Tell me about your journey and how you've ended up here.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So that can be a long story. How much time we got? Like a minute, 30 seconds?
a few minutes.
Yeah. So I would say so I'm Australian now, but but originally I'm from Hong Kong and China. So I think our upbringing gave us a very strong sense of purpose, but that's more to do with you study, you get a good job, the essential, whatever people were brought up in that environment. And then the whole thing sort of shaked up when I was lucky enough to get a scholarship and start studying in Norway. And then I studied in London and then, lived in Europe for a very long time before I migrated to Australia. But that really changed my worldview. One thing is because I was in this school called United World College. It's really about promoting international understanding. So that's pivot number one, where the little me, my world, my house, my money, my ambition, it's very me. That already changed perspective a little bit towards more the global, the helping others, different background, different culture, less conflict, more harmony. So that's pivot number one. And then, so after that, I was still career driven. So I was my background is economics and political science. And I worked in that field for some years. And I worked in the movie industry for a few years. So I have a mixed background, but still that was just a pivot number one, where you have a wider perspective about what is meaningful, so to speak. But it's more, I would say in a way, it's theoretical. Like it's more like intellectually you get it, that, just not just my own success, there's something more to do about the world. But not until I became a coach working with other women, mothers, and then until I became a mom, that is a bigger pivot, the pivot number two, where now, coming of age, I'm no longer 20 or 30, then you understand success in a different way, because you could obviously you want to have certain level of lifestyle and living standard, but because you have somebody now, I have a daughter and a son. So then you see purpose and meaning in a slightly different angle. It's not just about me, or the world I'm going to change, but it's also the legacy you left behind, or the modeling you give to your children, or what kind of world you want them to grow up in internally, like in this house and in a bigger picture. So I think that really changed my worldview, number one, and make my work like, you have a different perspective. But I think the second thing is to be very practical. You only have 24 hours. And when you run a business, and if you like, I during that time, I also write my books and have my podcast. You just don't have enough time to do everything you wanted to do and then look after your children in the way you think that's right. And so you became much more conscious about what is my meaningful success. So you have to decide what you want to stop doing, what you need to do more, and you become much more conscious about, what kind of impact you want to have in your immediate circle and the people around you. It makes you want to become a better person in so many different ways, but you change your perspective in terms of what is truly meaningful for me right now at this age, at this stage. So I think that's why I love to help women who are, being exhausted and very tired and frustrated by trying to do everything, making themselves so busy, but not getting the success they want. And so step one is to really define what is meaningful success to you right now at this stage, and what is realistic, what is also strategically we can achieve, but most importantly, what is aligned with your heart. And that became the core body of work that I do. So coaching, but with this particular angle.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, and I love that when you mentioned your purpose sort of shifted when you had kids, because we've just been talking a lot about the environment that we create around our children and how important that is for their own emotional growth and for their mental health and for all of their well-being. If we can create harmony and ease around them, and not that pressure where there's like no space for them to feel and to be relaxed. And I think, I know myself, like, many years ago when I was running a business and I had 3 younger kids and, 2 twins as well, like I remember that my stress levels, like, even though I'm a pretty chilled out person, right? But I know that when I watched this video the other day of the kids when they were little, like the boys were, I don't know, 6 and Hannah was 4. And it was like chaos. And I'm like, oh my God, did I live in that? Right? Did I live in that? I mean, we were having fun, but it was so chaotic. And I was just like, oh, I can't remember how chaotic it was. But when I looked back at that video, I thought, wow, just because we're doing so many things, like school and activities and business. And so I think that's really something that we sort of sometimes miss in our busy lives, isn't it? That environment that we're creating.
Yeah, I think you're actually just describing the life of the 21st century mum, because it's definitely something that's different now, because, I suppose we've got our heritage. We all have our heritage, that we come from, and what we feel the expectations that culture puts on us from our background. Then also we have the expectation of we want to be educated, educate ourselves and have a profession. And then we also want to have a family, and then we want to have an amazing relationship. So there's a lot that we expect of ourselves as well to kind of achieve in life. And I love what you're saying about, basically having that wide open viewpoint, but then having to come back down to the practical and everyday kind of challenges of life, and how do we get that, create that harmony and that balance in our life. And then, it's because I feel that myself in my journey as well, it's kind of, you have this huge potential, but you need to focus it on keeping the balance, so that you're not trying to achieve too much in a particular day and then not achieve anything really of any good quality, because then your relationships, the quality of relationships are getting less and less, and the quality of your work, or maybe you're not in the job that you particularly really want to be, and be in that purposeful job. Because I think, it's a fine art, and I love the fact that you're coaching women around that, because it's very nuanced. It's not, I think it's very unique to each individual, and it's unique to each relationship, even with each child, and the setting within the home, especially like when it comes to cultural conditioning and everything that we have to uncover in ourselves to find our own truth, and then to try and live from there. So it's a wonderful kind of journey that you've been on. And I think like it's very much, I suppose, the learning of your journey that you're able to bring back to women, and to help them kind of find focus and meaning in. Yeah. Wonderful.
And it all really recently boiled down to, I don't know, I think social media plays a big part, but I feel so tired as a modern day woman, where, as you said, you need to have the career, the business, doing good, and then relationship. Oh, please, must work out. No. Do you meditate? Do you do yoga? Do you use eco-friendly products? Are you eating clean? That's a lot of that. And if the ever constantly trying to improve yourself can be very tiring. And then at the end of the day, What is it for? Okay, I didn't do my workout today, but for 30 minutes, but maybe I did 5 minutes of yoga. Maybe that's just good enough for now. And what is most important? Oh, today my daughter is not feeling good from school. She's a bit upset. So instead of maybe working the extra hour to write better email campaigns, I need to sit down and talk with her what happened at school. Like, I think women got to make those choices. And some may say sacrifice, but I actually just think you got to be strategic, and you got to see, you know, everything has a time and place, and everything can be perfect. It's just how you look at it and what you learn from it. And this is the art for women now. It's not about doing it all. It's about choosing and looking at it differently.
Yeah.
I think it comes a lot from motive too, doesn't it? Like, I always think if I'm coming from the motive where I'm not good enough, like, and this is unconscious, right? So unconsciously there's something that's being triggered in me, that's being activated, this I'm not good enough, and I'm trying to create this thing, and I'm pushing myself. There's a push, like you can feel the energy, it's a push, and you're trying to make this happen. And that, for me, is like the motive is not clean, or it's not healthy, it's not really serving me. So I always try to stop in those moments. I'm still practicing, like this is a skill that we learn, but to stop in and just really come back to my center, and just to remind myself that, you know, I really, the most important thing is that I'm here and that I'm present in my own life. Because when I'm pushing and I'm coming from that motive, which sometimes I'm not even conscious of, because it is that not good enough, trying to make the next thing, trying to get that thing right, trying to fix that website, you know, get the perfect website happening. Oh my God, how many times can I rewrite these words? And you just get in this like loop, and you feel like, it's like, whoops, stop, coming from the wrong motive now. Like, this just doesn't feel good for me. I'm not putting a nice vibe into what I'm doing. Get the hell out of that space, walk away from your desk, and just come back to presence. And I think, you know, it is, you're right, it's so easy to get caught up in that trap of external world, do, have, and it's like just remembering to come into the present state and to be in that emerging moment. Because sometimes when you're in the emerging moment, what actually is created is so much better than you could have created trying to make it happen.
Totally. And I often talk about in my work about the yin and yang. So that's the push and that's the pull. And that's basically the feminine energy and the masculine energy. Like I talk a lot about in my books that, you know, when we're in a corporate setting or in a boardroom, you want to be the Athena, very strategic, very smart, very wise. But when you're in the bedroom and at home, you want to be Aphrodite, sensual, you know, feminine, pleasurable. So I think that's something sometimes we lose sight because we're so used to the masculine energy. Both are super useful, but it's yin and yang, sacred union, balance it within ourselves. And that's something I have to remind myself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that point, because I was going to mention that about what you're talking about, you know, women feeling that they have to achieve so much and do everything. And then that's the energy that they're bringing for them to become conscious of the energy that they're creating in the home. And, you know, when they can, we were even just talking about this in a workshop last night, myself and Lisa, about how do we become conscious of the energy that we are creating in our home, you know, and how are we bringing the stressors from the outside world into the home, where it's supposed to be a place of sanctuary, you know, and it's supposed to be that place that everybody can relax into. Because we all need, especially in the modern 21st century, we need that sanctuary, our homes to be like a sanctuary, a place of, you know, there's no expectation. It's just like this, where we recharge and, you know, we fill ourselves up. And then, you know, I suppose women, because now we're able to, we want to live a purposeful, creative life, you know, I suppose it's trying to,
Oops, we've lost her.
Maybe it's the connection. Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. So just saying to try and, you know, to for women to become conscious of that and their own energy, I guess, and if you're bringing energy from the outside into the home and the effect that can have on the relationships, you know, with their children, their daughters, you know,
And women thrive in a community setting, like you
Mhm.
said, the sanctuary aspect of it. But, like this, it's a group of women. And I think that's where we thrive, that we share our collective experience, our individual story. And that's how we, grow. They say, like, take a village to grow, like to raise a kid. But I think for women to live a good life, we actually need each other as a tribe. I don't think you should consider doing everything on your own, because that doesn't make you superhuman. It just makes you super tired.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
How much of a trait is that though for women? Like, like I do that quite often. It's been recently, maybe the last year and a half, where I just realized I've got to stop trying to do everything perfectly. And I actually realized that the more I do that, the more I'm pulling myself out of my lane. So I have a lane. I know what I'm here to do. I know what brings me joy. I know what feels amazing. And not doing that is not my lane. So somehow I have to work out to get somebody else to do it, or I've got to be more creative in dealing with those things, because if I'm constantly stepping out of my lane to do the things that I'm not born to do, that don't make me feel amazing and don't make me feel happy and joyful, then it's not going to help me in the long run.
Why do you think it is for women around us do that? Like trying to do it all, like that's kind of like it's in here, isn't it? Like when we talk about it, we're like, yeah, we shouldn't, like, but then we catch ourselves. Why do
I
we
think
do
it's
that?
emotional, actually. I think it's emotional. And I think what it comes back to, because I do talk about this a lot, because I recognize it in myself, in us unconsciously, there still is that inner child in us, and that feeling of not good enough, like the separation, if you like, that happened when we were a child, when we ended up separating from our true source, the essence of who we are, because we had people telling us things, or we couldn't be ourselves fully. So we moved away from the truth of who we were and still are. And we were living this life. And so what happened was we created this gap, really, between our true selves and what we're living right now. And what happens is when we're in this state of living from this separated state, we always feel this gap. And the gap is this: I'm not good enough, I'm not quite there, there's something missing. And what it is, it's the projection of our separation from our true self. And I feel for me, and I've noticed this with my clients, is that is an unconscious thing that can be going on quite often and driving us. And like when you see how, like I've been looking around, even now I have realizations and go, oh my gosh, that's what's behind that. Like I have these little realizations at how much it does drive my behavior, and it is so unconscious and it's so embedded in us that it takes our awareness to start looking for it and seeing this gap. And then the healing comes when we realize that we can actually go and meet ourselves and come back into our true state. And then we don't need to be pushing ourselves, or all those things aren't quite as active, That's my feeling anyway.
Yeah, so true. I'm just popping up one of the Facebook users comment to us there. Thanks so much. I don't know who that is. Actually, if you want to put your name there, it'd be wonderful. Thank you so much for commenting on our conversation. Yeah, like I actually love what Sze was saying about, the balance again. And what I'm really interested in, and what you talked about as well, was like the fact that, the feminine and the masculine. And what we're kind of trying to discover here in these conversations as well is kind of promoting the feminine force, which is like really sitting in the feminine force. And for me, it's not so much about, being the masculine in work and then being the feminine at home, but it's being the feminine and having that as something that emanates from you, where your purpose comes towards you rather than you have to go out and create that. So in my experience, my life, that has happened an awful lot. I mightn't have other parts of my life sorted out, but I do know that there has been a direction that my life has taken in my work, in my purpose, and that has always been very kind of pure, and that has always kind of come towards me. I haven't got other areas, maybe worked out so well, but I know that flow state has a huge effect. I became aware of that about 10 years ago or more, around, I suppose, kind of tapping into my intuition. And once I kind of have a feeling that there's something that I want to do, or like something that's wanting to come through me, I get a sense of that. And then when I start to feel into that and I start to put words around what that feels like, then it might be like, oh, you need to do, I feel like I want to do a course, or I feel like I'd love to go start teaching, or I feel like I'd like to do such and such. And straight away then I get a phone call to say, like, for example, if I felt like I want to go back to education, then I get a phone call to say, would you write a design thinking module for a 3rd level? Then I was asked to go and do training education program. I was for free. Then I was asked to lecture. I was like, all these things just, they'd come towards me. I don't have to go looking for it, So I think there's huge power in understanding that and teaching that women think maybe they need to be masculine in their purpose in their workplace and then feminine at home. But I would like to argue to say that I feel we can be more, bring our femininity forward in, I suppose it's bringing our softness forward, in a confident way, non-masculine energy that is a doing, it's a being, but the being that gets pushed out more confidently into the world, it's a different type of energy. Yeah.
I think like it's such an intertwined concept, and when I talk about Athena, she's a goddess, so she's divine feminine, but within her, there's part of it, it's more masculine, relatively, comparatively to say Aphrodite. So I think there's always a place, and I think, for example, women find it hard to ask for a pay rise, ask for double pay, like say you think it's time to double your hourly rate, for instance. A lot of women feel, oh, I don't know, like very hesitated, even though actually they really well deserve that. I think at that moment, for instance, I would say maybe bring more the Athenian energy, that very strategic and, stand your ground and speak up. So I think it's such a beautiful art about, this feminine force where it can be so powerful. It's how you're going to sit in it and how you're going to use it in a way where it's attracting, it's magnetizing, it's not about pushing. And I see that also more with my children. Like I'm looking at my daughter, she's 5. But when we talk about little things about school, what boys do and what girls do, I mean, my ears start like pick up and say, okay, what is she going to go on about? And then I realized that, for her in her world, how the boys will manifest their bravery is very different from what girls will manifest. Like, so the boys may be brave by doing something naughty or, I don't know, climbing things. But in her mind, girls being brave would be, say, asking questions when you are nervous. And it's so interesting to see how little people start to embrace concept of bravery. You're already using the lens of boys and girls being different. And I don't know what I'm really talking about, but I just see the difference in them. And I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, I think you're so right, though, because exactly what you're saying, because I feel in myself that like that, it's like it's like having the masculine behind you, and the feminine forward. So it's like the masculine is pushing you to higher heights, to bring yourself higher, but your femininity is the forefront. So it's a compassionate you're talking about the interconnection, interdependence of your consciousness, your understanding how you can include everyone. Like it's a very like community based, your viewpoint is always taking everybody in, you're including everyone. It's like the idea of like the feminine is very nourishing, and it's always like bringing everyone together, including everybody. So how many more people can we include in this decision that we're making if we're in a corporate setting? Are we just thinking about ourselves and the bottom line, or are we incorporating the fact that the wellness of our staff, the wellness of the people who are going to be, using our products, the wellness of the environment? I think that's the power that women have in our feminine force, that we can include all the different aspects, not just the bottom line, but because it's unsustainable now to have any kind of a business that's not going to include and have a consciousness, in business, that we can include all the different viewpoints. And I think that's a fantastic power that women can bring into the world, because we have that ability, like you say, we thrive in community, and we have learned how to see so many and take in everybody's point of view, because we understand that we need to survive, we need to share our resources, and that going forward, that's the only way we can survive. So it's being confident enough to speak that truth, to the world, and that's where I see the masculine coming out.
I think that's really, because I'm like you, Sze Wing. I sort of feel that there's been a really big shift in the last year or two, and I personally feel that the calling has been to really be in my divine feminine. And then what is that? And how does that actually work when I'm trying to run a business and I'm trying to pay my rent? Like, how does the divine feminine work? Like, how can I live my life when I have a to-do list and I'm action orientated? How can I live the divine feminine in my life? And I think that has definitely been a calling for so many women. And I do believe this is what the transition is for us. And I've been feeling, for me anyway, what that's meant is that when I would just sit at my desk and like work through things and go, it's like stepping out of that energy and really coming into the presence and using my intuition and really surrendering to the divine to guide me, and being in this moment where it's not really so much what I want to do. Like, there are things that I know that I have to do to get a job done, but I'm constantly reminding myself to surrender my will to this divine flow, and I'm here for a job, and it's not about me. It's not about, all these things that I can achieve. It's like, I'm here for a job. I'm doing my job, and I keep stepping out of the way. Maybe it's my ego that I'm reminding all the time to step out of the way. It's my masculine. I'm not sure, but I feel like this is definitely my journey, and I feel like speaking to a lot of women, they're similar. Like, for me, it was like, I know I have to work differently. I know I cannot keep working like this in a new consciousness. I cannot, because all I'm going to do is create an old consciousness of operation, and that didn't work for me. It hasn't worked for society. And so the last year and a half, it's been like, I know that I need to learn how to do differently, and that's actually come back to being more. And so this has been my journey on the whole. How do we actually balance the masculine and the feminine? And I love what you said, Carolyn, and I do believe that, and I want to say the rightful place, and I don't mean this derogatively, but it's almost like the masculine energy, the power of the masculine energy is in holding up the feminine energy. Like I saw that sculpture of this man, and he was holding up the woman, and the woman was holding up this beautiful ball of light. Yeah. So she couldn't have been holding the light if the man wasn't underneath holding her up. Yeah. So I feel that is how the energies really support each other rather than one or the other. I think that there's a beautiful support that happens, but like, we're all learning this now, right? I think that all this is like really new information on the planet and new ways of being, and we're all trying to figure out what the hell does it mean, and how does it feel, and how do you do it,
And there's so many facets of feminine power, because, like, when you were talking about the picture, I also see like a mama bear, like fierce, strong, like, protecting your cubs. And then at the same time, it could be very soft, very gentle, like water. So there's so many facets about women. And that's why it's so exciting. And that's why I love goddess myths, because in a myth, there could be a mama bear 1 minute and then like a beautiful woman in the next. It's like, we can totally do that. And metaphorically, that happened. And in reality, we do. If someone hurt your child, you immediately react in a mama bear way. And then when you get home, when you read them a story, you are completely different. Right? So
I love that. And actually, I definitely feel that, because I think, though, it's the mama bear when I activates in me when I see injustice in the world, when I see, because it's like once you become a mother, I think you become a mother of everything, a mother of everyone, like
compassion just spread to other kids as well,
and it gets,
right?
exactly. But when you see injustice, and you see it even if across the world, it's like it hits you like it's your own, and you just feel you have that responsibility. So I think the power of the mother, like that, all women have that, even if they haven't had children before, that it's something that's innate in us, that kind of that force comes forward, and there's great bravery and courage that comes with that. And it's like, I know when it comes to me, like there's nothing will stop that. Nothing will stop that. The minute, when you feel that, you're like, no, like any kind of like conditioning, social conditioning or anything that might have kind of kept you quiet. I think when you see injustice like that, especially when children or anything like that, it just goes, no, this is not enough. This is not good. We're not having it. It's just like
knock it off. Not on my watch.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is what's coming through, because I think that power is coming through. It's like really like the Mother Earth, like the Mother Earth energy coming through women, and to say like, speak up for the planet, speak up for children, speak up for injustice, speak up for what's happening. It's just not good enough. We're not taking it, and we're going to do something about it. It's not we're just going to give out about it. We're going to go into action, because women are fantastic at organizing. We know how to, get things done, and we know how to work together, and we don't have a problem with competition. We're brilliant at collaboration, because for centuries that's how we survived. Like we share, and we share knowledge, we share resources, we share. So there's fantastic possibility when women come together into global kind of communities like this, like cross-cultural, conscious culture building. There's amazing, and tapping in to those resources that we have in ourselves, like you said, the mama bear or whatever. I think it's very exciting future we have to share if we go forward with that, and have the courage to do that, and have the masculine behind us, Yeah,
I think so too. Now, Sze Wing, tell me about some of the books you've been writing lately.
So I wrote a book called Goddess with Many Faces a couple of years ago. Before that, I have a small book called 21 Days of Inspiration. And now I'm working on, the pending title, but it's called Wonder Woman, Becoming a Wonder Woman. As in, not like, when people think about Wonder Woman, they think about this, most like Sheila kind of thing. But for me, I had this image of somebody who showed up, and divine feminine, like as in beautiful, gracious, but strong, powerful, seems to have it all. And I'm wondering and in awe, how could she do all that and be who she is? And I want to be that wondrous woman. And I always had this concept about becoming that. It's like us coming of age, becoming like a goddess in a way, embodying all these things we just talked about. So I'm actually working on my next book based on that concept, using my method in terms of in my coaching. So there's certain cornerstones, certain attitudes, certain tools that's what I see when a woman embody all this quality, because I'm a very practical person. By having all these tools around and utilizing it, then you will feel like that person, and other people around you is just wonder and in awe. It's more like me starstruck at someone before, but anyway, so that's what I'm working on. So very aligned with what we've been talking about.
Yeah, amazing. That's fantastic. Yeah, we'd love to maybe share a link for that book underneath in the comments.
Yeah,
this that would be amazing.
When it's written.
Yes,
yeah, with the first, I guess the first book, and
the easiest, and also because I do coaching, so obviously my website is the go-to, whether it's the books or coaching with women virtual. And for the people who are in Sydney, if you are interested in anything I talked about, I have a full day in-person event in June. If you're in Sydney or in Australia, it's also on my website. So that could be something really fun to do, because I just miss in-person events so much, because women love to connect, right, and talk to other women like you, and it's been so hard. So that's what I do, and it's all on the website anyway.
That'll be fantastic. And the link is there. I put that in the comments too. That's so good. And I love that concept of Wonder Woman. And I can feel that, for me, often feeling into a state of being, like if I'm not feeling so good, like feeling into something like that, which is what you're saying. Like you can feel how inwardly powerful that woman is, that she can just walk in and be in that strength. And I think that's a really amazing skill to be practicing all the time, because when you're feeling that power inside you, it can really help you show up to situations where you need that inner force, you know, that unshakable core. You need to be able to turn up like that. So I think that's fantastic. I love that.
Last thing, I'd heard this neuroscientist talk about the other day. She said we are feeling creatures that happen to able to think, but we're not thinking creatures that happen to just know how to feel. It's the other way around. We are feeling creatures. So I think that's so true.
Yes. Yep. Well, that's the basis of all my work as an emotions educator. Yeah. It's like, and I say that all the time, like every living thing on this planet has a feeling in response to its environment, and then they evolve and they adapt. Human beings, we have a feeling and we take it straight into our head. We try to figure it out. We medicate it. We suppress it. We resist it. We project it. We deny it. We are the only living thing that does not use the information from our feelings to grow and evolve. And I'm saying that as a generalization, but, you know, like we haven't been encouraged to feel our feelings because they're uncomfortable, and we haven't been given the tools to actually sit with that discomfort and be able to use the information that is in all those feelings. So, yes, I totally agree. But it's going to start changing. More and more people are talking about it.
Absolutely. And have you seen much of a change with the women that you're working with? Like, have you seen kind of pattern in, you know, is there anything kind of merging with women? Are they enjoying, you know, the coaching? And
yeah, I think the key thing is really people are, I would say, like, not fed up is not the right word, but you know, this doing more and getting better, like constantly self-improvement is not the way to go. Because I think sometimes there's this pressure, and sometimes it's not necessary. I mean, if you have a health issues, obviously you have to deal with it. I'm a very practical person. But when you're trying to be perfect in everything, you're kind of missing the point about what is important. So I think more and more women are what we realize it, and also trust the intuition more and let the divine do the leading, taking inspired action rather than everything goes. So I think that's an emerging trend, and working with coaches help them. And I think that could be one of the reasons that happens, that, you know, it just happens. This type of women I work with, and that's the common journey. But I would say definitely people are more towards that direction.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And it's amazing that there are coaches like yourself available now to kind of guide women, because, you know, the way sometimes if you're feeling like that or you want help in that particular area, sometimes like your friends or your family aren't at that mindset that want to kind of develop themselves in that way. So to have somebody to support you constantly on that journey and to reinforce, because, you know, you hear these things, it's like what you're saying in your journey, where you can study things and they come into the mind, but to embody it, it's a different journey. It's a separate journey in itself, you know. It's like, because it's another awakening, really, like that you would have to walk into that, you know, in your life, you know, and I think to have that kind of support and coaching along that process is amazing, you know. And it's exciting to hear that women are kind of they must be starting to kind of follow their knowing, you know. I think when they're looking for help and they're actually asking for help, like, it's really, that's very positive, you know, that people are valuing themselves enough to even, you know, invest in themselves to get that kind of help.
That's investing in themselves. And I do find sometimes women, after they left their husbands or relationship, they tend to jump the gun. It's, I mean, in a way, I'm guessing it's that something they already wanted to do, but before they kind of feel they have a permission or some sort. But now when they're free, they're like, okay, this is the first thing I'm going to do.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, it's strange in itself, but I've started to notice there's quite a few clients that it started off that way, because okay, now I don't have to, like, sort of, you know, getting someone's okay. I mean, even a 50-50 partnership, you felt like you have to get an agreement of some sort. But then now I'm on my own. The first thing I'm going to do is invest in myself, and then I'm going to get coaching, and I really want to pursue the dream that I want. And I think it's fascinating, and it's so freeing as well.
That's amazing. And actually, you know, there's something in that I find, just in what you said there about looking for permission from a husband or whatever to invest in yourself. That goes back to parenting, I think, as well. Because, like, if you're parenting with girls to always do what they're told and not to have a voice and whatever, that's what happens then back when they get into marriages, you know, because then they still look to somebody else to give them permission for things. You know what I mean? And it's like another block that they have to overcome. So, you know, it would be lovely to think that younger girls or teens could grow up feeling that they didn't have to ask for permission, that they had that empowerment in themselves, or even that culture was, you know, because it's something that even with education, you know, it's still ingrained there, like, you know, the way.
So
You know,
so deeply ingrained. Like, I guess that used to be like the dad become was the breadwinner, so the mom has to ask permission to spend money. But in modern days, actually, often it's two-income household, and sometimes the women earn more money too. But still, they still need that permission.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So it's so ingrained there.
Yes.
So it's from that kind of patriarchal, you know, your father was the head of the household kind of thing. What he said without you realizing it's hidden in our subconscious, you know. And it's not until we become aware of it that it's there. You know, I find it really interesting because, like, I kind of thought to myself, even myself, I was like, after so many years of education, so many years of experience, I'm like, there's still this conditioning behind me that I'm like, wow, you know, that's kind of running me. And you notice it in the moment. When you're in the moment, something happens and you feel like fearful about moving to the next step, and you kind of go, wow, where's that coming from, you know? And then you have to investigate, like, okay, that's some kind of conditioning that I've had, and to become aware of that's something that you can move through and doesn't have to kind of limit you, you know, is really it's really exciting, kind of, and interesting, I suppose, for women that feel have gotten to a certain stage in their careers even, and then they're finding it difficult to kind of find their purpose as such, because it's very different, isn't it? You know, being educated and having a great job to actually being in that purpose that you've been here, you know, especially if you're on that kind of divine feminine path, you know, that there is a particular place that you're to be put into position for, and it might mean that you need to kind of move jobs and move careers, or, you know, you're trying to listen to your intuition about that, you know. So I think it's really interesting to hear that women are kind of like going, you know, I suppose investing in themselves once they kind of feel that sense of freedom, you know.
I think it's great, because I think people hold back on investing in themselves, and yet that's the greatest investment that you could ever make.
Absolutely.
Really.
Absolutely.
So that's wonderful. I've had such a great conversation. I love where our little conversations meander to. Thank you, Sze Wing, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
It's been really lovely.
Wonderful to meet you, Sze.
Thank
you.
And
we've put See's information in all of the posts that you'll see. So look her up on her website, have a look at her books, connect with her on social media, and go do that day. That's exciting. A face-to-face workshop. Wow.
Yeah, so if anyone listening, watching, it's 11th of June, Saturday, in Sydney, Darling Harbour. So hopefully we'll see some.
I'll be there. I'd love to see that. I'd love to go to that if I could.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much. And thanks Aganeska, for commenting and watching us. Okay, bye.
Bye,
everyone.